everybody. So just if you want to turn this off, it's going to be a scary podcast.
I want to talk about sticks and bricks and dirt. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
And obviously, the real estate world this last week has, kind of been shook with a bunch of misinformation. And, I assume to what a lot of agents are assuming is going to be some turbulent times coming forward, probably starting this summer.
Yeah.
Just a lot of unknown.
Referencing the NAR settlement.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you should educate our listeners on that a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not. Neither of us are extremely educated on it, but it has to do with essentially the thought, whether there is or isn't, but of standard commission rates of 5 or 6%. Mm-hmm. I know if anybody that's worked in the industry, you'll commonly see agents taking listings, of between 5 and 6%, and
sometimes more,
sometimes less.
Sometimes less.
And technically, or really legally, commission's always negotiable. Mm-hmm. We live in a world where, price fixing is definitely illegal, and, people getting together and charging the same price, that's illegal. And that the real estate market's definitely not excluded of that. But I guess just an overview of how kind of a standard transaction works. And I'm an unlicensed realtor. I used to be licensed, so maybe if any of this is going to be not extremely accurate, just know it comes from my mouth. So I have no ties to NAR or any real estate brokerages locally at this point in my career. But traditionally, listings are taken from a listing agent, and there's a commission charged to the homeowner who's going to be selling the house. And that listing agent, when they post it on the MLS, offers a cooperative commission to any buyer's agent that would bring the buyer. I really like that term, any agent that'll bring the buyer, as in, typically an agent that has a formal contractual agreement with the buyer, and their payment is paid by the seller. And I'm not even going to use the quote unquote technically, everything in the recent past, the buyer's agent and the buyer's commission and the selling agent's commission is both paid by the seller.
So if you are a buyer, like if Tim and I were out in the world and didn't know anything about real estate, but we knew we wanted to buy a home, you would typically, this is how it happens now, find a real estate agent that would be your represented buyer's agent, and that is a free service to you as a buyer right now.
Typically. Everything's negotiable, though.
Everything's negotiable.
We're going to use a lot of typicallys. Also, I don't want this to be misconstrued, but the buyer's agent is sometimes referred to being paid by the listing agent. That really is I don't want to speak directly contractually on that relationship between the list agent and the sell agent. But in the general scope of a standard, what I would consider a retail real estate transaction, that's how it is. Mm-hmm. You have a motivated seller that's represented by a listing agent. You have a motivated buyer that's represented by a buyer's agent. They both have their own fiduciaries, as in the agent that's showing the home and writing the purchase contract, and the listing agent who's acting as the fiduciary for the seller. And there's a lot of technicalities. Honestly, I would say the main reason that I retired my real estate license was the liability. Anybody that knows anything about what sort of real estate business we do would know that, we've been known to purchase properties that are both listed with the multiple listing service, and also properties that are sourced outside of the multiple listing services where there's not any agent representation. And Sarah and I do a very, very good job when we purchase off-market properties. That's typically a contract that I will manage, just because Sarah does maintain her real estate license where I do not. So if there is ever an issue with that, that's my contract versus yours. And because we just like to keep everything on the up and up. I'm not going to have in-depth contractual conversations with realtors, and Sarah tries to withhold herself from having in-depth contractual conversations with off-market sellers. And that's just something that we both have a high understanding of the ethics and integrity of purchasing and selling property.
But I think I know with being a licensed agent, especially all weekend, because this came out on Thursday night.
Late week, yeah, mid to late week.
It has been everything.
A lot of speculation.
All the content I've been consuming all weekend through news outlets, through social media, through, even my TikTok is just full of what this means for real estate agents. And I think it's scary. I definitely am thankful because typically when you start your career as a real estate agent, you are a buyer's agent because the act of getting a listing is so hard. It's not easy. It's probably, in my opinion, the hardest part of being a real estate agent is actually getting the listing.
And there's more business being a buyer's representative, just because if we think about how many buyers there are to houses for sale, at least the last, let's just call it 6, 7, 8 years in the Southeast region, you might only have, if there's a time where there's, just throw numbers out there, there's 2,000 listings because it's low inventory, and there's 25,000 buyers for those 2,000 listings, and you're going to weed a bunch of those out because the house is just not the right fit. But in these multiple offer situations, like, you have way more buyer's agents than you do listing agents.
So it's just easier when you're getting started to be a buyer's agent. And oftentimes the people that have the listings are more seasoned agents. I hate to be like, they're the more talented agents. And I've been an agent for going on 8 years.
10 now, really. I think, darn near 10.
But I've had my listings, but to be honest with you, it's just my personality. Most of them are houses we've flipped or purchased in some way, shape, or form and need to sell. Tim was the one that went out and got most of our listings, and that's the type of personality that it takes to get a listing. So I know there's a lot of agents out there that are scared because they're buyer's agents and now they don't know come whenever this starts. I thought it was mid-July. Whenever it starts, that basically this lawsuit has to go into effect. Buyer's agents
NAR's
don't.
made some claims that they need to change what's in the MLS is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
They're not going to be.
Because right now, just so those that aren't a real estate agent know, and we used to say this to our sellers when we would list properties. I know
dance around
at least dance
sure.
around it, because the commission question is a huge one when you're a seller, because the goal for a seller is to make as much money as possible. So how much are you charging me and where does that money go?
Well, and to be fair, the goal of being in real estate as a career is to make money.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has a family to feed.
I think there's a lot of people out there that I do real estate to help people. And I think that can be a bona fide fringe benefit of being a real estate agent is it's great to put the right people in the right house. But let's call a spade a spade. I want to see how much commission I can get in a year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
We're all here to make money. It's their job. Real estate is their job.
I never dug holes for free.
But when you are a buyer's agent and you're on the MLS looking at properties for your client, say you have 3 properties that fit whatever category it is that they want. And of those 3 properties, one, the co-op or whatever you're going to make is 1%. One's 2% and one's 3%. Well,
which of those houses are you going to maybe naturally, unnaturally encourage your buyer to think more seriously about?
And typically the answer is the one at 3%. So when Tim and I had listings and we had clients, that would be a conversation we would have with them, and they would oftentimes choose to pay the buyer's agent more. Well, now with this lawsuit coming through, everything's going to have to change. So buyer's agents out there all week, and all I've seen is basically they don't know how they're going to get paid.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of hearsay out there about, the structure of getting paid to be a showing agent. Let's just call them a showing agent. Let's call a spade. To be a showing agent or a buyer's agent. I guess that really is 2 separate roles, depending on how you're structured, whether you're working for a team or not. But people are talking about consultation fees. And right now, a lot of buyers' representatives do use the exclusive, right? What's it called? The buyer's
Buyer's rep
represent,
agreement.
which pretty much says that I'm going to get paid X amount of dollars or percentage of the contract price. If the listing agent's offering isn't high enough, you'll cover the gap, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of people already use those. Well, that's going to be 100% of the business now. Like to me, when I think about it in my head as a non-licensed real estate agent, I'm not a realtor, is that I'd probably want to pick up the phone and call the listing agent and be like, hey, like I'm going to have to get paid somewhere. My buyers are FHA. They're only putting 3.5% down. They can't afford to cover my fee. So
Because they're already putting everything they have down just to buy a house.
they're either going to have to over-escalate contracts to cover the commission to the buyer's agent, or the seller's going to have to agree to cover it. The listing agent's going to have to agree to cover it. I think there's a few ways it could be done.
But then that'll be interesting because what if you have like 3 showing agents showing your house, and one of them calls and says, hey, my buyers can't pay me, but 2 of them are able to get paid by what's going to happen then?
I mean, it'd just have to be built back into the contract.
know.
And I'm going to say the unpopular opinion. And here is one of my largest beefs with the real estate business. I'm not talking about real estate investing, the real estate business, the
Like
commission.
being a
yeah. Whether you hang KW behind your name,
Yeah.
Coldwell Banker, whatever the national or local companies. But here's what it is. Everybody thinks it's cute to tout that you're a business owner until you have to make business owner decisions. Like I'm sorry that you're going to have to build in your own living into your profession. Welcome to business ownership. I'm sorry, you're still 1099 by your brokerage unless you're a broker and you own the brokerage. I'm not talking crap, but like, woe is me. That is my saying. Woe as me. I am sorry. You know what? When we started Tim's Fencing, you know what we had to do? We had to decide how we were going to pay our damn bills. And we had to decide how we were going to make money. So it's not that I'm heated about the subject, but I'm hearing, there's a lot of complaining from agents in the market. And I'm just sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, like, woe is me that you guys can't have your hands held 100% of the time by a contract that regulates pay. Oh my gosh, you have to build in your own value? I'm mind blown here that this kind of work for yourself business is turning into something that's going to be absolutely work for yourself. There's no other business out there like real estate in the past. Like it's just moving forward with everything else. And, mark the date on the calendar, probably back in 2014, 2015, when I was getting licensed, I was like, this is a profession that doesn't exist in 20 years. I think I said 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put another 10 on the back of it.
Well, also East Tennessee is different than I'm sure if we were back home in Portland or the Pacific Northwest.
We've had a ton of friends like just have Zillow by their house,
or
Red Door,
whatever. Yeah, they don't have it here yet, but
or
whatever
they just
the one
purchase
is,
them.
or the one where they can you don't need because here in East Tennessee, there's like a Supra box which you have to be an agent to be able to open up the house.
Nope. Remember we looked at that house over there and off Aylesbury.
What was that company? Open Door?
Might have been Open Door.
Red Door?
There's ways that
Whatever.
non-represented buyers can access houses, and I think that is phenomenal.
Yeah, but I'm curious what that's going to mean because what if you don't have a buyer or showing agent and the house is on Supra? Or is Supra going to go away now because it's going to deter people from seeing your listing? Or
can we call a spade? That Supra should probably go away, though. I'm just saying that as a person, like $1,000 of fees a year just to use an e-box. And I think, that's owned by GE now? I think GE.
I have no idea.
But anyway, doesn't matter. It's just a fee. The structure is its fee-based structure, and it's nearly to the point where if you want to practice real estate, you have to subscribe to Supra. You have to
subscribe to the MLS. You have to be a member of NAR, which is a cost as well.
Well, I guess you don't technically have to subscribe to the MLS. You elect to.
Well, I don't know how you do it if you didn't.
Yeah, right, exactly. Efficiently.
Yeah. But it's interesting. If I was an agent right now and that was the only thing that fed my family, I would be scared.
Do you know who's crushing it in the organizations these days, though? Like transaction coordinators. I've seen a huge uptick the last 5 years of transaction coordinators and them running extremely efficient, successful businesses. Because, like in anything, the contracts are always the hardest, the paperwork's always the hardest for it to, qualify for a commission check at the end or whatever that might look like, just the legality of it all. And just to have a third party doing the correspondence to make sure it's all correct.
Yeah.
And those are the people that shifted, somewhere between the last 5 and 10 years.
I like to think if we still did full-time real estate, I would have shifted to like a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
And you would have shifted to like a listing agent.
Yeah.
And that would have been it.
But really, my whole drive to get out of real estate was the amount of cold calling I was doing. I'm like, why do I even want to be represented and have to work within the exact bounds of a real estate contract? Because, that's where I first got the taste of off-market purchasing, was because I was cold calling so heavy we were, with Keller Williams in Knoxville, and I didn't act on anything that was unethical at that point. But that was my main reason I wanted to retire my license, is I wanted to be able to cold contact people who I thought would be equity upside enough to motivate them to sell, and there still be meat on the bone for us to do a single family residential flip or a hold or a rental or whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. And that was a wormhole right there. I'll pause that one for a minute. But I'm interested. Like, honestly, right now, if you're a real estate agent and you're not thinking like, because this is another industry where I truly believe AI could take over 95% of the job. If you're not investing in the technology sector of real estate, I don't know if you're going to exist past. There's going to be an expiration date. I'm going to put it that way.
Well, it's also interesting to think about, because we talk about this with Tim's Fencing, is like if there's a downturn in the economy, like it'll flush out. Mm-hmm. It'll flush out businesses. I mean, that's just kind of what happens. And so I remember, here in East Tennessee, like the market was ridiculously hot. Like when we bought our house in Hardin Valley, like and it was that way for years. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were a good agent or not. You still had buyers and you still had contracts and you were still getting paid. And the frustration of agents that have been seasoned and this influx of all these new agents that didn't know what they were doing transactionally. You had to run the whole deal and they still got paid because nobody knew what they were doing because it was so easy to do real estate. I'm kind of excited for those agents to flush out a little bit.
Absolutely. But really, at the end of the day, there's so many checks and balances right now. Like the bumpers are on to make sure agents succeed. Because even like the title company that's closing the deal, like we've had times where the title company is like, you didn't sign the non-disclosure agreement. We signed it at closing. Yeah. That's happened on a bunch of our deals for whatever reason, or the other agent didn't sign it. So part of me is also, like everybody has to carry E&O insurance. Like if these title companies just took a step back, you have untrained agents going to closing tables with probably contracts that are null and void. Yeah.
We've closed deals with projects or contracts that are.
Let the weak filter themselves out, though. Like if you've closed less than 40 deals as a real estate agent, I would highly, highly consider, soliciting for some sort of a mentor that can at least get you on track to do the deal correctly and mentor you into just taking listings and how to, if you can't pick up the phone and cold call moving forward, I think, at least on listings, expired FSBOs, whatever that might be, it could be a little turbulent.
Yeah. And if there's like so many agents in town that would be great mentors, or they have teams and
I've seen a few actually post on social media over the weekend that they're going to be taking on coaching limited amounts of newer agents.
I think your idea when we were talking about this, here's where the money's at. Not like we want to do it, but I think that's such a good idea, is to host buying classes.
Oh, absolutely.
So buyers don't need an agent anymore, because if you have Zillow on your phone, it's like you have Zillow on your phone, but I have the MLS on mine, and every
it's
night
instant.
every
It's
night we're looking
instant
at
now.
you see listings
It
at
used
the
to be
same
2
time
to
I do.
3 days, but now it's instant.
So if you have Zillow on your phone and you understand the contracts at least enough to get you through it, I mean, that's kind of dangerous, but
It's not dangerous.
if you can Google,
I'm sorry.
if
Do you know
can
how to
read a
Google home
contract.
inspector? Not
Yeah.
that I'm saying that that's always a fail safe, but do you know how to Google? Do you know how to Google a title company? Do you know how to Google? Let's see, home warranties. Okay, well now there's three large components of a buyer's presentation right there. Is who we're going to be closing with, here's people that can inspect the house.
Yeah. Well,
Here's mortgage lender options.
And even chances are you already have a lender, so they're going to handle the appraisal part of all of it. And the seller probably already knows where they want to close at because they're going to have an agent. So you don't even have to worry about those two.
And if buyer agency changes as dramatically as kind of the doomsdayers say, which I think, honestly, my true gut tells me everything's going to shift and be similar to the way it is now, just with some hush-hush rules. But like mortgage lenders, a lot of their leads come from buyer's agents. It's not necessarily, because there's probably a few models. Like as a lender, I'm sure you have a handful of agents that send you 20, 30, 40 deals a year. And then you have 100 smaller volume agents that send you 1 or 2 a year that lead buyers to you. So that does make me question, kind of the collateral damage, for lack of a better term, of the home inspectors, of the mortgage lenders, of the title companies, although, it's neither here nor there, I guess. But I do think their leads are going to drop because you're going to have those referrals. If they're going to remove cooperative commissions and how they're exactly done on the MLS, you're going to have less buyer's agents. And now the listing agents and the sellers are going to, I feel like they're going to have more weight in the deal. So it'd be whoever they recommend, I guess, at that point. I don't know. It's going to be real interesting. I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what to think yet.
I just know agents everywhere in the land are freaking out.
It is. I mean, it's just
And
you got to shake it up every now and then.
No, and I know some agents will prevail and they'll probably be more successful due to this, and some agents are going to fail and they're going to have to get out of the business.
Absolutely. And come on, sell fence at Tim Svensson.
I just know, I feel like I can comfortably say that because I feel like I would have been one of those agents that would have to make a decision to get out of the business.
I mean, I think for some people, it's just going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's going to put a line in the sand between the hustlers and the complacent,
Hey, I'm not complacent.
I'm not saying you're complacent.
But
you're
it's
not a full-time realtor.
It's a different type of person, though.
It is interesting, though, because even on the other side, like the real estate investing side, that's gotten so competitive in the last 5 years for a multitude of reasons, shifting topics a little bit. And I think what I've seen is a excess amount of realtors stepping into the real estate investing world, and they're doing very, very well.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, when you start talking ripple effects of, the economy being slightly softer, lending rates being higher, these NAR rules, kind of dwindling down, just at being an election year, what's real estate? And right now it's still real hot. We're kind of stepping back in full speed ahead right now, and the market's hot. We're definitely not doing it the way we used to do. Mm-mm. But I wonder what 2025 looks like. Like anybody that asks me about our business, because Tim's fencing and all that, like Logan's he's my main guy, him and Mike this year, and y'all. I'm already in 2025. I'm always a year ahead in the fence company. Like, what's next year look like? But now I'm doing that with our real estate business too, and asking myself, hey, what's 2025 look like for us? What's 2025 look like? What's going to be, the hot commodity in real estate in 2025?
I think the market's going to shift, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think multifamily is going to take off. I think denser. I think urban boundaries are not going to extend. I think we're going to have to see more vertical integration nationwide. That's already real big out west.
Yeah.
Going up rather than out. The middle housing zoning for the city of Knoxville, that's been great for adding ADUs, which are additional dwelling units, Airbnb, which could be Airbnb, going single family to duplex. But I do wonder, It makes me excited, though. Is
I
that
th-
bad?
I
I'm
think-
excited.
I feel like it'll, like Tim's fencing will have to, I,
I mean, it follows the real estate market.
Well,
In the
yeah.
dog market.
yeah, it
follows
does.
the
But
dog market, too.
I get excited for a little shift in the market for our real estate business because
Easier to buy.
easier to buy. Yeah.
Procurement becomes quicker. But, I mean, really now we're just, the majority of everything we look at is raw land and lots. Maybe tear downs. I like that. Taking something that would never be fixed and pushing some dirt around and erecting something new on the land.
We still like taking something ugly and making it pretty.
Yeah, we're getting ready to do a single family rehab next
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
That's going to be exciting.
It's
Been a while.
First one
I'm
in
trying
a
to
while.
think. The last one we did was probably 2018. I think we sold that one in
Burwell?
North Hills. Carson Avenue was the last one we did. It was that block house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the backside of us just committing 100% to Tim's fencing. I mean, that was really the main reason is it's hard to do two things extremely well.
Yeah.
It really, really is without a phenomenal team in place. And
Yeah.
so we took a break, but we're back. We've dabbled the last couple of years, but haven't taken it real seriously.
Well, we tried. It was just too hard to buy anything.
Yeah.
So we like try and buy a rental when I retired my license. So we tried to buy a rental for a couple of years, but like we couldn't make the cap rate make sense on anything because it was all so high. And then that's pretty much it, really. We've been so busy with
real
Tim's
dabbling.
fencing. Yeah.
We bought an overnight rental at the beach.
Oh yeah.
It's not like we didn't do anything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We bought the shop.
Bought the shop. It's a great property. That's it. Now we're right back in. But it is interesting to see, if anybody has any strong opinions or more fact-based evidence on, kind of what they believe the real estate market's going to do from a retail perspective, as in representation of buyers and sellers. I'm all ears. I love the conversation. Honestly, though, I do feel like the beautiful thing on the backside of it is it's going to take people who, we're business owners with air quotes, and it's going to turn them into real business owners. Like you guys aren't going to have the Achilles heel, however you want to look at it, of the contract. I think that, as far as representing buyers, you guys are going to have to bring substantial value to the marketplace to be able to make the same or better income. I honestly think for high quality buyers representatives, they'll make more money on the backside of this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, if you're representing a buyer on a multi-million-dollar property, that's a huge safety net for the buyer to be represented by somebody that's also not representing the seller.
Yeah. I feel for the first time home buyer now.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel for them because they're already like the newlyweds that are putting everything they have into being able to put their down payment in to buy a house, and they are not going to be able to pay for a buyer's agent.
But like, for instance, like, let's talk about agents that represent builders. Like, I've not met one that is not extremely ethical. Like, they do care about the buyer. They care that they're getting a quality home.
yeah,
We know, I don't want to name drop any, but we know a few
Yeah.
that are just, that's a lot of their business
Is
would
they
be an
work for a builder.
unrepresented buyer.
That is true.
And we've represented both sides of the deal.
That is
You have to be
true.
real Switzerland, but at the end of the day, like, let's just call it exactly how it is. Like, if you have a motivated buyer and you have a motivated seller, and the buyer has goodwill and the seller has goodwill, there's usually a deal to be had there. Now, there can be some drama in the middle, but sometimes, nobody will guess this, the agents cause the drama. It's not the buyer and it's not the seller. It's the egos, it's the personalities, because at the end of the day, the realtors also don't get paid unless you two come to an agreement and you close the deal. So that's the ugly side of real estate right there, is there's times where you just don't click, or maybe you've had a less than average deal close with the agent in the past, and there's hard feelings. Like, it's humankind. It's just how it goes.
And that right there is why I don't do residential real estate anymore.
There's a lot of emotions.
There's so many emotions
A lot of emotions.
between everybody. You got a buyer that, Maybe their lease is up and they're like straight up not going to have a place to live if you don't close this house. And you have a seller that's looking to make $100,000 and you better close this house. Like it involves a lot of money. It's always extremely emotional. And then you throw an agent in the mix in there that, one situation may be the agent doesn't know what they're doing. Or the agent's extremely...
Or the agents had 2 deals fall apart this week already.
Yeah, the agent's desperate for a closing. They got to feed their family, They haven't had a closing in a couple months or what have you. Or you have an extremely aggressive agent or something like that. It's interesting.
It's very interesting.
I feel for agents out there that are only doing full-time residential real estate.
It is tough. It's a tough business, but we know people that are very independently wealthy due to the money that they've made and invested and
we know a
bought
lot
and
of
sold.
them.
A lot of
very
extremely successful real estate agents. Like ones I look back and I'm like, I guess I could have done that. Like they're living the good life, but God has plans for everybody. Mine had to do more with pressure treated lumber than anything, I suppose. But I love, there'll be a day, we talk about the future of Tim's Fencing a lot. And it's, at the end of the day, a catalyst for all of us to make, as good of an income as we can. But at the end of the day, like, there's a day coming ahead where it's probably on autopilot and we have the opportunity to do more and more in the real estate investing world. And be a part of brokering deals for people, maybe even, or being lenders on other people's real estate deals. I really respect anything to do with deeding dirt. Like that is just honestly some of my favorite days in business are when we get the opportunity to go buy or sell a property. Like those are very, very fun days. They're very, we're also typically pretty ethical, integrity filled in our real estate transactions. I mean, all the time. I can't really recall any deals I don't feel great about that we've done. And honestly, I like sitting at the table and meeting the seller most of the times, or meeting the buyer and shaking hands and giving them a card, and especially in a flip, and be like, if anything major goes wrong, like, please let me know. Because we truly are not trying to do a lipstick flip, and we're not, we also sell our homes when we do them at very reasonable prices. I feel like we're not trying to squeeze every dollar out, compensate agents well for their jobs. But
hey, if you are an agent out there though, just thinking marketing wise for Tim's Fencing, and you're going to do that buyer's class, we're happy to sponsor if we can.
Yeah, if you're
market
doing buyer's
to your
consultations, let us offset that cost a little bit for you.
That's a huge market for Tim's Fencing is home buyers. So
buyer's agents.
Yeah.
Big,
see, that's another thing.
Source.
Buyer's agents are a huge resource for Tim's Fencing.
Absolutely.
It'll be interesting.
People of Young's Williams too. Good lead sources. But yeah, that's all I got really today, honestly.
Yeah, we just spent a lot of time this weekend talking about that.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting to read some posts by some very outspoken real estate agents, who's, for better or worse, opinions we thoroughly respect.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we agree with everything they say or not, like, they probably have a better glimpse on that side of the market than we do at the moment. So I'll do nothing but be open ears. I ain't no keyboard warrior about it.
No way.
But
I'm almost a little nervous to
I'm
post
here.
this podcast
I'm
because
here
I feel like I'm not educated enough on it. But
we didn't speak too directly about it. We're just saying what the news. The news is painting it to be a dang bloodbath, which I don't believe is going to be the case. I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath, but I do think there's going to be a shift. I do think there's going to at least be an extra phone call about compensation every time you're listing or every time you're showing a home.
yeah, I don't think that brokerages are going to be able to put so much on compensation either. You know what I mean?
Because commission's always negotiable. Nobody has to say.
Yeah.
Except for
Like, you're still going to have to pay your cap and everything, obviously, but...
Right. Still got to pay your broker something.
Still got to pay your
That's
broker
how they
something.
pay their bills.
Yeah.
Well, that's our side of the Let's go.
Corbin and Brantley were walking through these woods, and then this bear showed up. It tried to ram at them. they finally escaped, but then the bear hurt both of our best friends. And and then there was a hoo 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 an owl call, and the earth started breaking in half. Then there was a big dinosaur, and it ate them. There was dinosaurs with swords, and they cut them up. And then there was more and more people over the time, and the same thing happened. Over past years, there's more and more people, but they didn't get killed. They went on bus rides and bus rides and bus rides. They heard scary stories like this. And then all the bus rides just fell down this cliff. Each time, these children kept tangling up in these windows. Thank you for listening to the Tim's Fencing Podcast.